I texted with Boswell, and I told Boswell, I said, we got Chase coming on the show. Give me the most fascinating thing that you can tell me about Chase Briscoe. And Boswell said his humility is off the charts. And I agree with him. But I would say that if humility is your greatest trait, how does one stay humble after they've just accomplished their dream by making it to Cup?
I've just always been like that. It wouldn't be possible, first off, without everybody else. Like, I'm just one small key to all this stuff. Like, if I'm driving a car that's not capable of winning, it doesn't matter how great of a race car driver I am or not. You're only as good as the stuff you're in. So it's one small piece of this big puzzle, So I've just always been humble. I'm just grateful to be here. First off, I don't think I deserve to be here necessarily. If you go back and look at my dirt resume, I won 6 sprint car races, I think, before I came to NASCAR. Like, I didn't race a lot, I didn't win a lot, but I've been able to get here, and I'm just blessed to be here. And I'm just happy to be here. Whether I win 1 race or 30 races, I'm just glad to be part of it.
What do you think were the moments, though, in your career? You say that I had the same, not the same. I had a similar feeling about my late model racing. I got a chance to drive my dad's Xfinity Series car, and we went on and did some great things. But up to that point, I ran like 159 late model races and won 2 or 3. And, and so if you look at just the statistics, you would go, well, that guy doesn't belong in the next level, right? Or how is he getting that opportunity? But there had to have been, just like when Brad Keselowski ran, almost won Memphis in the truck.
Yeah.
When he subbed for somebody in that 2 truck.
Yeah.
I think you were working for that team, Mike?
No.
Or you had been?
But with Ultra Motorsports, yeah. But, I had once worked for them, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got my timing wrong. Sorry. But, so Brad, that was Brad's moment.
Yeah.
Right? I'd seen him race cars and they shouldn't run well and do well with them, but nobody was really paying attention. And but he goes out there and does that. And so, what was your moment? What was the race, or maybe the race is the season where somebody went, man, that guy, I'm gonna give him a call. And maybe it was Brad's truck, I don't know, or the ARCA team.
Yeah.
What were the events that happened?
There was a couple, but I think the one that really set it all in motion is, so when I was sleeping on couches, I was good friends with Christopher Bell, and he had this opportunity from Roush, and it was almost the Ford development deal. Well, he was already signed up at Toyota, so he called me, hey, they offered me this. I'm not going to take it, just to let you know, like, if you want to try to pursue it. So here I am. I just walk in Roush's front door. I had the guy's name. I said, hey, is this guy here? I'd like to talk to him. And I don't know how I got a meeting, but somehow I got this meeting. And I walk in, and I'm, like I said, I'd won 5 or 6 sprint car races. Like, I had nothing. He was a USAC champion, all this stuff. And I sit down with the guy, and I'm like, hey, I know you guys are looking at maybe starting a development deal. I know Christopher Bell's name has been thrown around. I would love to just throw my name in the hat. Whether, you guys use me or not, I just want to have a chance. And I said, actually, me and Christopher are going to be teammates this week, and I've never been in equal equipment. I'll just let you know how it goes. Well, we ran a $300 to win mini sprint race. Like, meant nothing, right? Yeah. It was just going up there to have fun. Well, I win. Bell ran second. So I emailed the guy, and I was like, hey, this is how it went. I didn't expect to hear anything back. Well, that same week before I went there, I went and met with this guy about maybe representing me, and he had called the Cunningham people and said, hey, if you guys ever go into another test and have an extra car, I got this kid. His name's Chase Briscoe. Maybe just keep him in mind. So this Cunningham team had heard my name from him, and then Cunningham actually calls Roush that following week and says, hey, we're going to take this extra car to test. Do you have any kids you guys are maybe interested in taking or anything? And they said, yeah, actually, there's this Chase Briscoe kid. He was just here. If you guys are going to take another car, maybe try him. So this is 4 weeks before all of it happens. Well, I've been down in North Carolina, and I haven't heard nothing. I've been down here for 3.5 years, I want to say, and I was over it.
What were you doing?
So just volunteering at different race shops.
Working?
Yeah, trying. I would walk up. A lot of them would turn me down.
Not driving. You were.
No, I would just work. Yeah, I would just work. Yeah. So the first shop I was actually at was Brian and Bob Keselowski's, and learning from Bob, that was tough. It was intimidating.
Yeah.
And then to come back full circle, and I drive for Brad, and then end up being the last race for them and all that. It's just crazy how it all came back full circle. But anyways, I'm driving back to Indiana to go run this sprint car race, And I called my mom, and I just broke down. I was like, I'm over it. I'm moving back next week. Like, I've been down here long enough. Nothing's happening. 2 hours later after that phone call, I get a call from this guy named Kerry Scherer, who's the co-owner of Cunningham Motorsports. And he says, hey, Chase, you know, we've heard your name thrown around a couple times from a couple people. We're actually going to take this car to test in a couple months if you'd be interested in maybe driving it.
What's
So,
the track?
Nashville.
Ooh.
Fairgrounds.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I would love to do that. I'll be at the shop Monday morning. So I go to the shop Monday morning, and, like, I think they think I'm, like, coming there potentially with a paycheck. Like, they're showing me what I can, like, what they have and all this stuff. So right before I walk out, Paul Andrews, Quicky's old crew chief, is the general manager. And I said, hey, Paul, like, I don't know if it means anything to you guys, but I'd be more than willing to just volunteer my time here if that makes a difference or not. So he's like, yeah, that'd be great. So I showed up, and I made sure I was the first one there, the last one to leave every day. And, like, I would get there at 6:45, 7, leave at 7, 8 o'clock at night. Like, it sucked. I'm not going to lie. So I'm doing this for a while, and it was, like, towards probably 3 or 4 months into this, and we're going to go to Mobile, Alabama for a test, and Tom Hessert's driving. Well, Tom had to fly back to Philadelphia, like, 2 hours before the test was over. So the crew chief, Chad Bryant's like, hey, take your stuff down there. I'm not promising anything, but I might let you get in this thing. So the end of the day comes, and, you know, he's like, all right, let's load it up. So I'm like, dang it. Like, I thought that was my chance. I was going to go drive this thing. And then he goes, I'm just kidding with you. Go put your stuff on. I was like, okay. Like, so I go put my stuff on. It was the worst 20 laps of my entire life. Like, he puts me out there on 100-lap tires. I've never really driven a stock car. I'm driving this thing so hard, roasting the tires down the straightaway. Like, it was bad. So I get out, and he goes, so what'd you think? I said, I just blew my shot, didn't I? And he goes, yeah, it wasn't good. I'm not going to lie to you. And I remember calling my dad, and I was like, I just blew it. This team, there's no way they're going to do anything with me. So I keep volunteering, and 2 or 3 months later, we go to Nashville for the test, and they take a third car for me, and I end up being faster than their two main drivers. And we go back to the race 2 weeks later, and the main guy sits on the pole. So they're like, man, like, you were 2 or 3 tenths better than him. Well, the owner of the team, Briggs and Beth Cunningham, started hearing about how I was working there and thought it was pretty neat that I was just volunteering my time, not really expecting to get a race. And so they could say, hey, we're going to let you run a race in 2015. So I go run IRP and ran 10th. Didn't run very good.
So how long have you been volunteering your time?
Almost a year at this point. And I finally get my shot.
So you're working there. Are you getting a paycheck?
No.
How are you living?
I would go spot for Keselowski on a couple off weekends, and he would pay me like $350, $400 a spot.
Yeah.
And then this couch I was sleeping on was Ross Weiss, and I told him up front, like, I can't promise you rent every month, but if I have $50 or whatever, like, I'll give it to you. So I would give him $50, $75, $100 whenever I had it extra, and then I would eat the old Wendy's dollar menu almost every day. And so we go to IRP. I qualify 5th, run 10th. Wasn't that great. Well, then we go to Salem, and I nearly win the race. I end up running 4th because of tires or something like that. Well, I've never met this Cunningham guy. I called him right before the Salem race, and I was like, hey, I just want to thank you. Like, is this Briggs? It was like a 30-second conversation. Yeah, this is him. No problem. Bye. I'm like, great. Like, this guy ain't going to do nothing with me, right? So come to find out, he lives like 2.5 hours from my hometown. So I'm going to drive back home for Christmas, and I was like, hey, I'm going to stop in and see you. I just want to shake your hand and say thank you. So I pull in there, and he's 87 years old, and me and him hit it off. Like, I still talk to him every week to this day, and he drives me around his property and shows me everything. And at the end, he goes, so what do you want to do next year? And he'd been in ARCA for almost 20 years, never won a championship. And I said, well, I would love to try to get you your first championship. I said, but if you run me in 10 races, 5, 1, I said, even if you don't run me at all, I can't thank you enough, and I greatly appreciate you letting me to run 2 races. I never thought I'd get to do that. Called me the next day and said, let's run for the championship.
Wow.
And then we won nearly half the races and won the championship. And then that got me my Ford deal. And then that's when I went to drive for Brad. The Brad deal is supposed to be 2 years. It shuts down. So then Ford's like kind of thrown in a loop. They put me in the Roush deal. Goes terrible, obviously, in the 60 car. Like, it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
I feel very confident I was going to lose my Ford deal.
Why do you
win the
think
Roval.
that didn't go well?
I think it was just a mixture of 3 guys from 3 totally different backgrounds.
It's too much.
Like, you had Cindric, who was a road racer. You had Majeski, who's a short track, late model guy. And you had me, who was dirt
that was
racing.
just last year. Like, it's not
feels
that
like
long
it.
ago.
Yeah, it feels like it. 2018.
Yeah.
I think there's 33 races. It had 38 wrecks.
Yeah.
Like, those guys worked their tails off. But, like, that thing, you could be 10 laps away from finishing and something would like come out of the sky and hit it and wreck it.
Yeah.
Like it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was wild.
But yeah, I go to 2018 and like I feel like I'm for sure losing my Ford deal. I had one. We were running the 60 car. It was terrible. I won the Eldor truck race, but didn't really feel like that did anything for me. And I go to the Roval and I win. And now that following Monday, Ford's like, what do we got to do to make this happen for SHR next year? And they get all the funding put together and I go run. So then I go to the Roval the following year, which is last year, and they sit me down. They're like, hey, we're good to go for next year. All good. Just focus on this playoff. And I'm like, okay. So I go to Homestead. I sit down for my like year of end meeting, and hey, we don't know what we're gonna be able to do next year. We don't know if we're gonna have anything for you. Would you be interested in running part-time trucks maybe? I'm like, well, I really wouldn't want to. Like, I feel like we can go run good next year. I was like, can I go talk to other people? Like, they're like, well, truthfully, we don't want you to, but you got to do what's best for you. And like, I honestly contemplated even going and spotting. Like, I was like, man, what's my backup plan here?
Wow, this is just last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was in November. And then January, I find out that High Point's coming on board like last minute, and now we're sitting here talking to you.
Jeez.
This is just so, I can't even reiterate how this just does not happen this way. And you haven't brought a dime to any of these
Never.
teams, like the Cunningham team or whatever. I mean, Dale, you're an owner. Like, how unprecedented is it that teams these days are just hiring people based off of not even there's talent, but there's also, like, in a lot of these cases, it's just what people are saying about you, or just like rumor. Hey, the fact that you walked into Roush and got a meeting is remarkable. That doesn't happen.
It's funny. So I used to literally sneak into racetracks. Like, I would just sneak in and I would go pass out business cards. And I remember this is probably 2014 or 15. I walked up and handed Jack Roush a business card, and I was like, hey, I'd love to have a meeting with you sometime. And he said, I don't do meetings. And then I come back and I get a drive for the guy in 2018. But I don't know how I got that meeting that day when I walked in. I did that I don't know how many times. I would just walk in. I would somehow find the name of the guy. And I would go on LinkedIn. Like, you could always see their title.
Yeah.
And it had their email address. So
Do you have a LinkedIn account?
I do. I don't really use it now. But
I started one then.
You went through a 2-week phase of LinkedIn,
Yes, I
and
did.
then that's as long as it lasted.
I didn't get any new jobs or business.
You know, and he was just strapped. He had no way of making any money without that LinkedIn account.
My resume was awesome.
This was just a few years ago, by the way. It wasn't like it was, when he was 16 or 17. Of course, they didn't have LinkedIn back then, probably. The way you were able to just make things happen. I mean, I think you have a remarkable testimony.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, and I think that, as you have put it, as you go along the way, and your trials seem to be, moments that are purposeful and meaningful, even though you may not realize it in the moment, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure. And, part of that testimony, I do feel like is, even the miscarriage thing me and my wife suffered this year. Like,
Right.
to have that happen the day before and then go and win at Darlington, like, I never in a million years would have thought that would have reached that many people. We thought about not even telling anybody, and then we end up deciding last minute, like, hey, let's just put it out there. And the amount of people that reached out and was like, man, you have no idea how much this is helping us. People saying how they didn't even believe, and now they do. Like, it's been unbelievable, the amount of people that story's touched. And I do feel like that's another part of our purpose as well.
that race, him racing Kyle,
Wow. Yeah.
one of the most amazing things I've seen. I mean, like, that was an amazing race. Didn't even know at the time you'd been crying in the car.
Oh, it was bad.
Can't imagine what it's like to drive with tears in your eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was, a
it
lot
was
of the
bad.
race. Take us back, though, to the race in itself, on how you were able to hold off, arguably the greatest.
Yeah, so that race is obviously the first race back for 2.5 months. So you get in and you're kind of like rusty in general. I remember the first 20 laps. I wasn't really there, obviously, emotionally and like in my head. But then also the car felt so foreign because we hadn't done it forever. And I'm like, this is going to be a long day. Like, this is not going to be good. And somehow, I don't even remember, we got the lead. And as soon as I took the lead, I started crying. It was like 70 to go. And I just knew that my wife and all these people were watching and that knew what we were going through. And it, like, I hadn't cried one time in front of my wife because I was trying to be strong for her.
And we should just say that week leading up is when you guys had found out the news that you had lost.
We raced on, I want to say Thursday. The race was supposed to be on a Tuesday, I think. Well, I found out at the racetrack on Tuesday. I was on FaceTime with her. And then it rained all day long, so I had to sit there and wait to go home. And then we came back, I think, on Thursday and race. So it was 2 days after. And
she had gone in for a checkup. Is that right?
yeah, it was her 12-week checkup.
12-week checkup.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was tough, just being at Darlington and seeing it on FaceTime, seeing her reaction and not being able to do anything, and just knowing that you're stuck 3.5 hours away. And then to go back down there on Thursday, you know, I was a head case. Like I didn't even want to be there, truthfully. And you know, I take the lead, and like I said, I hadn't cried in front of her. Like I was holding all these emotions in, trying to be strong, and then I take the lead, and it was like it all started slowly coming out. And then when we won, I mean, I broke down. I mean, it was bad, but it was obviously good because of why it happened. But I was struggling.
Yeah, that was amazing to watch you go through the poise and the professionalism and just how you handled yourself. I think you endeared a lot of people. And I think that, you know, when the fans of our sport are always kind of looking for these, you know, different personalities. There's kind of a different driver for every fan. There's a you know, there's all kinds of colorful personalities in our sport, but the fans have been kind of looking for that sort of self-made guy.
Yeah,
You know, that kind of blue collar guy. And I've told the fans that they're out there. You know, there's several examples of guys out there, but you're one of them. It's pretty impressive. Just hearing your story, I didn't even know a lot of that stuff, and I don't know how people can appreciate how hard you've worked, and you know how many times you almost gave up and sleeping on couches and pinching $1 and. You actually worked, you worked on other people's cars, putting other people's cars together and helping them go to the racetrack before you ever got your opportunity. And those type of things really matter to people, especially when you get this chance to go cup racing. And now everybody's going to want to see that success. No pressure, but everybody's going to.
No pressure at all.
Everybody's just wanting you. Everybody's just wanting you to win because they want you around.
Yeah.
They want you here for 10, 20, 30 years. They want to cheer for you. They want to when people are fans, like you're a fan of other sports teams, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You want them to be successful. You want them to win today, and you want them to win 10 years from now, and you want to pull for them forever. And that's how people look at you as a driver. So it's just. I already was pretty excited for you, but just knowing that story, knowing how hard you worked, and it's all really just kind of played out in the last decade. It's all played out in the last
really
5 to 10 years.
2-3 years.
Hey guys, if you enjoy these videos, which I know you do, go listen to the whole podcast. So much more there in those podcasts. Go listen to them today.